Tell us about those couple of years leading up to selling your business. How was growth going? What were some of the key things that happened that led you to the moment of actually deciding to sell the business?
If I could go back, I might think differently about this, but I would always think it's like, man, I'm like a farmer and that all of my wealth is tied up in this thing that
Yep.
does produce me, four or $500,000 a year or whatever it is. And while that's a generation of, gosh, the main part of the wealth is tied up in this thing that I can never access. And so in my limited mind, I thought, boy, it'd be great to access that wealth sometime. But at the same time, I didn't want to do anything different. I loved what I did. And so, potentially the older Jay would say, stick it out. Like there's a lot there to be had. The hurdle of handing off the business to somebody while I owned it was a hurdle I never got to attempt. It was always me owning it and me managing it. I would have loved to try that, me owning it, yet somebody else managing it. But leading up to that, I'd been approached a couple times by people wanting to be in the Rochester, Minnesota market, and it just wasn't an interest to me for those reasons. That like I like what I'm doing, I see what I'm doing. It wasn't until a couple of national companies approached me about potentially buying that. And the key thing in this, again, separating business from family isn't possible. My wife was going through what at the time seemed like a terminal diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, and so that happened in early 2013. And at roughly around the same time, two businesses approached me, and so it was like, okay, if this goes bad with my wife, I'm more ready now to consider it than I ever had than before. So that was really the thing that kept me in the conversation. I'd been in the conversation before, and it never really took me to where I wanted to go. It's like, no, I'm content. But now I had another reason. Like I needed more time with my wife that might not be around.
Do you ever regret the fact that you sold to spend more time with your family, but then you're like,
No.
well, crap, I've still got this earnout. I've sort of still got to work. I might as well, if I'm going to have to work and do this earnout anyway, I might as well have kept the thing.
Well, except that I could see, 3 years out, and I knew there was an end, and it afforded my family a different lifestyle that we had intentionally. We didn't deprive ourselves of much. We still took trips and we still did things, but we saved and reinvested. It was tied up in the assets. We had no debt when we sold, and so everything was going to us. And so yeah, it was. I don't like to regret decisions. I think it's like, oh, there's a different path that could have been good also. But I think what I chose at the time was very intentional. It was a give to my family that I hadn't done as much for the 15 years previous.